Hello YouTube, this is D-Deck here, and now with the Battle City Begin event is over in Duel Links, I felt like making a discussion video, just giving my overall thoughts, some things I liked and some things I didn't like about the event. So if you agree or disagree with anything I'm about to say, let me know in the comments below. That said, what are my overall thoughts? Overall, I thought this was a very progressive event, and not just in terms of storyline that are continuing from Duelist Kingdom, but rather a lot of good things they've had in previous events, they carried over into this event, and they've even added some new things, they've tried some new things, and some things that I kind of like, I hope they continue on in the future, and there's one or two things I sort of have some issues with, but overall, like I said, I thought the event was very progressive. I very much liked it. That said, going to things I like, talking about the progressive thing, some of the dual objectives that and for cards are actually some level up awards that are a little bit past what Duelist Kingdom asked for, and that's a little detail, and I really like that little detail because it does show some progression of where the character level ups is supposed to be going at, where these characters are supposed to be at as to where the actual packs are displayed. Like I said, it's a little detail that I very much liked in how they're slowly using the cards. Something else I liked, and something they carried on from the previous events, has to be the special field they had for mind controlled Joey. Now, this is something they did for the Water Dimension Tower event, and it's something I very much like there because it's a nice little aesthetic. That said, they brought it back for this event, and I very much like the design and outlook for it. Now, do I think they should have these for every single duel? Heck no. But because this is the final duel of the event, I felt it made it a little bit more special. Not to mention, this is something they didn't have to do, but because they did it, it's a nice, like I said, it's a very nice touch. It's something they didn't have to do, but they're doing it anyway, so it shows a little more effort into what they put into the event itself, so it makes it feel a little bit nicer. Another thing that I'm not sure is good or not, but they shortened the number of zones per round from 5 to 4, which again, I'm not sure if that's good or not, but it does mean technically you can get through the round a little bit faster. Now, granted, there isn't a whole lot for just the first half of Battle City that you can probably add to the event. There is one thing they left out, and they made a comment about it in the storyline event, but if they were to add it into like a second version of this event, I can definitely see it going from 4 to 5, but that just means more events, so I don't actually mind it. But moving on, one of my favorite things about the event, and it's such a small little detail, but one of my absolute favorite things is also something I've been complaining about for some of these events. You see, the event has a storyline little icon that when you land on it, it tells you the overall story that it may not be able to tell within the individual spaces. But one of the things that irritated me in the past events is that this little space, when you complete all the storylines, it would become blank. It'd become absolutely nothing. It wouldn't do anything. But now, starting with this event, if you complete all the storyline events, instead of becoming nothing, it becomes Millennium Coins, which seem to be something they're promoting more starting with this event, which I don't mind because Millennium Coins can equal more gems and more card fodder. So overall, I like the fact that it just becomes something. Also, the reason I transitioned the image on my phone like this is because it's a little screwy. My phone's not displaying the images correctly, so either or. Moving on to something I felt was a little hit or miss was the manga panels. In terms of things I liked about the manga panels, I liked the fact that when they showed these manga panels in reference to some of the rare hunters, because I know they can't have like a sprite for every single rare hunter, so they're using one generic sprite for rare hunter. So I like when the manga panels actually got to show you what the rare hunter actually looked like, as opposed to just some sort of random fodder-based character that you can just get that you're supposed to just pass through anyway. I like the fact that they had a little more emphasis on those kind of characters. Not to mention, of course, they're very nice to look at. I mean, this image I have right in front of me is very blurry, but they were very nice to look at, and it's very nostalgic, which is again what Duel Links is meant to be. Talk about. Moving on to the rare hunters, strings. Strings! Of all things of adding sprites into the game, I was not expecting strings, and this is a nice little touch because when I saw this, I immediately got excited. I know he only has like one duel in the actual anime, but I really liked him. He's a very creepy like character, and even though he isn't actually a character, he was a mind controlled character. Nevertheless, just seeing a sprite for him in the game kind of makes me wonder if he's going to be an available character in the future, like Arcana, like very much like Arcana was, and for this event. Now, my only problem is I don't know what kind of deck they would promote with him. Like with Arcana, he's very much Dark Magician. And with the more recent addition of Bones, Bones is zombies. You can literally throw any ding that has zombies, and that's Bones. So I don't exactly know what would be strings, but nevertheless, it makes me a little bit excited. And then, of course, the last thing I have to talk about is the Rare Hunter Room, something they added for this event. And the good things I like about the event is, again, the coins. Coins can get you gems, coins can also get you card fodder, but I like the fact that they are promoting gems a little bit more. It like makes it's another way to for if you're just cycling back through around, it's a way to get extra gems, extra cards, extra gems. Overall, I like the idea behind it. Not to mention it gives you a lot of extra coins. I mean, I guess not too much, but it just if you land on it, if you time it right, it makes you actually a little bit more cautious with the dice you're using, just not throwing them around everywhere. Like I said, overall, I very much liked it. Moving on to things I didn't like, let's actually start with the Rare Hunter Room. To be honest, I didn't like how this Rare Hunter Room came out of nowhere. Like, just all of a sudden, update. It's like, oh yeah, it's suddenly here now. Like, there was no announcement for this. It just suddenly was there. It suddenly, the board changed and everything. And I kind of feel like for people who already progressed a lot before this change, I kind of felt like those people were kind of cheated a little bit. Like, they said it started after round two, but but that kind of means like if you're already at like round four, you missed like four opportunities already to get the dual room, get this rare hunter room, and get extra coins. Which I mean, if they would have known, if someone like that would have known beforehand, they probably wouldn't have progressed through as fast. They would have waited for the update and then just gone through. So, like I said, I felt like not only did they come out of nowhere, it felt a little cheated for people who didn't know, which would have no one actually. But so, like I said, I'm very divided when it came to addition to that. And I guess something I brought up before was the rare hunter sprite. When it came to the Yugioh duelist and the tag team duelist in the story mode, they just used the generic sprite, which I very much actually very much remember the image of those characters, so it's a little disheartening to see that. But then again, I probably understand that adding those sprites into the game is extra data that you probably don't necessarily need, especially if they're not planning to do anything with those people. I mean, they already have Yugimoto having a version of Exodia, so I guess they wouldn't make a just a random character out of yo, here's an Exodia based character. So I understand the use of using a Rare Hunter sprite. But once again, that's where the manga panels come in handy. You could actually see what they looked like in the manga panels, which kind of lets me go back to another point I didn't like about the manga panels. I didn't like how, well, it was a weird aesthetic. Let me just start with that. Like the manga panels themselves were, the text in the manga panels were Japanese, which yes, the game is originally Japanese, but playing on the English version, it feels like an error, but it's not actually an error. It's actually something that's part of the game. Not to mention, I can't read Japanese. I'm English. I admit that, but so it kind of feels like it's a disconnection, even though they're trying to add a connection. I don't know. I thought it was a little off. Not to mention, it's not something they can do in the future. Like in terms of like the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. The Yu-Gi-Oh manga is the only one that actually connects a little bit more to the anime, up to a certain extent, minus filler. But they can't really do that when it comes to future GX or 5D events because the 5D and GX manga is fairly different from the actual anime. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Yu-Gi-Oh manga comes before the anime, as opposed to the GX and 5D's manga coming after the anime. So I don't know. I understand, like I said, it's meant for nostalgia purposes, but I'm a little divisive about it. And the last thing I want to talk about, the last thing I did not like about the event, and this is a minor gripe. If you're okay with this, then I don't mind, but one of the things that kind of irritated me about the event was when it came to the final duel, like, storyline wise, you were supposed to be playing as Yugimoto. However, when it came to, like, the extra coin objectives, the game was asking you to play as Yami Yugi instead of Yugimoto, which, that, like, why is that a thing? Like, I understand, like, for people who don't have Yugimoto as a character because he was unlocked by, the Duelist Kingdom, but why wasn't there at least an option where you could play as Yugimoto? I mean, this is supposed to be coming after Duelist Kingdom, and in Duelist Kingdom, you got Yugimoto as a character, so why couldn't you at least, like, why couldn't it be play as Yami Yugi or Yugimoto to gain X amount of coins? Like, why isn't that a thing? Like, why can't you just play as him? Like, the storyline asks you to play as Yugimoto, just, why can't you? I mean, one of the previous event objectives was, use Gearfree the Iron Knight in this duel, which is unlockable via a pack, which for new people, if they didn't know about this event beforehand, they probably wouldn't be able to get by use as much gems to get that pack right away. But With this, I guess that's kind of the same thing, but just why? I mean, it's a small little touch. I mean, you don't necessarily need to achieve the objective. You can technically duel with any character, but it's aesthetic wise, it just makes more sense to use Yugi. So I don't get it. In terms of the first duel, yes, Yami Yugi, but for the second duel, should have been Yukimoto. And like I said, that's just kind of my overall thoughts about the event. Like I said, overall, I very much liked it. It was a very nice event. And if they come out with a second version, I would. There's definitely things they could definitely add. And there's definitely things they could do differently. But overall, what do you think? Did you like the event? Did you not like the event? Did some of the things I say resonate with some things you said? Overall, just have a good day and later days.